Okay, let's get started today. We're going to look at Standage's book, History of the World in 6 Classes. We'll look first at the first part, first chapter, which is about ancient Mesopotamia and Egypt, and has to do with the drink they developed called beer. I guess in their sense, a happy discovery and mistake. First of all, there are 6 different periods in World History AP. This is often a really tricky part for students to understand and grasp because many of our tests and the tests that you'll take at the end of the year, the AP test, they're set up with questions that are focused upon those periods, and they'll give you a date like 600 BCE to 1450 CE, and you've got to be thinking about that range right here on the deal. So you're probably about right there on the screen. So from the first part of the year through 1450, so you're talking about probably 3 different periods of time. They might be more specific and say 1450 to 1750. That'd be global interactions. That'd be your 4th time period that we're looking at. So if you look at all 6 of them, they get shorter and shorter as you go through the time you get closer to the present day. The reason for that is much more is happening as you get into current times. So there's a whole lot that happens in this big, huge span up here in this purple color. And Standage kind of calls that the time period where beer developed. And generally wine develops about the same time, but it dominates the more what we call the classic time period, the classical age. Then spirits, which is more the age of exploration, occurs. Those are the 3 we'll look at here today. Also look at coffee, tea, and Coca-Cola in the next few video episodes here. So, do you really need to read this over the summer? No. If you don't read the book, you're going to do poorly on the first 2 big assignments. The first quiz is Friday, and the test over 6 classes is the following Wednesday or Thursday, that next block day. You can recover from a bad test and a bad quiz, but that's not a good way to start the year, and certainly not a good way to start as a real AP student. This isn't pre-AP anymore. This is the real deal. So if you want to come in and be an impressive student to me and to your teacher, there's no better way to start than by reading the book, and at least having a pretty decent feel for it. One way you can do that, even by skimming the book, is looking at these videos and thinking about it as I talk through it, and also getting together with some friends, as we'll look about in this next slide. But WHAP is not about what you know as much as what you think and how you can determine what the answer is. You're not going to be able to do that without the basic level of information that you get from reading and taking notes. So let's look at this next part here. It says, how can you get help throughout the summer? Well, one way for sure is to email me. My email address is on the page there, on the screen there. It's very simple. I've already had probably about a dozen students who've emailed throughout the summer. Do we need to do the questions that came that we got before the end of the school year? Yeah, it'd probably be a good idea to do the questions. Am I going to collect them and grade them like homework? Probably not, because I don't do homework like that, but there may be another teacher who does. All I'm going to tell you to do is have them done and ready to use them when we come into school. Really a good idea is to form a study group, a partner, or somebody else you can sit down with and just think about the text, this book with them. To discuss it, to compare it, to go through those questions and start thinking about it before we come in August. So teamwork is really a big part of the class and will be a big part of it this year. So definitely I think it'd be a good idea for you to try to group up if you have a few friends or not. If you don't, email me, and if you have a question, I'll be glad to help you as much as I can. Now, first of all, let's talk about alcohol. I do not condone the use of alcohol for anybody who's not of age. I have never had a drink of alcohol, and don't drink beer, don't drink wine or spirits. When we get to the next three parts of the book, well, I probably have a little bit of an issue with caffeine, but that's a whole different story. We'll get there later. But when I was a high school and college person, and I was a student athlete, it was very important to me to do well on the playing field. It's also important for me to do well in the classroom, and I knew if I was using alcohol quite a lot, as much as some of my teammates were, which was a lot, then I wasn't going to be at my best. And I wasn't the biggest, fastest, strongest person in the world, but if I was going to play and be effective, I was going to have to be at my very best. So I chose not to do that. I also know that those people who do use alcohol sometimes use it to excess, and I did not want to see myself fall into that trap. And so I steered away from it. So certainly, if you're someone who thinks, parent or student, oh, Duez wants us to drink alcohol, that's why we're looking at this book, I think it may demystify alcohol to a certain extent, because you're going to understand where it comes from, its origins, and some practical uses for it, as we'll get into here in a little bit.